Hello and welcome to Don's FSD Challenge. I'm Don Burke and FSD is Tesla's full self-driving capability. In this video I'm going to describe the actual challenge route that I've developed, which is a 100-mile loop around Virginia, Maryland, and the District of Columbia. The route was specifically designed to challenge the capabilities of the FSD functionality. It was not designed to make it easy. It was not designed to highlight where autopilot and navigate on autopilot perform well. This route is designed to make it fail, essentially, and be able to document whether it fails less often over time. So let's jump in here and take a look at the actual route and see how it goes. So what we have here is that loop. It starts down in Springfield, Virginia. It takes a quick jaunt up 495 North to Braddock Road, where it turns around, comes back down to 395 North around the Pentagon, underneath the Memorial Bridge, up GW Parkway a little bit, and then turns back around to get on 29 to go across the Key Bridge into Georgetown, where we take another left, go up Canal Road, up Cabin John, and then across the top end of the Beltway over to the Baltimore-Washington Parkway, where we come back south, across the bridge, 695, through the city, over to Route 110, again around the Pentagon. Then we go out 66 to Wolf Trap, where we have to go through some toll booths. Then we go through some rural streets. So we come down through some rural roads, through Oakton, where there's a traffic circle, and then wind our way down to Route 50, back over to 495, and south to the Springfield Supercharger. In total, there are about 23 big challenges for autopilot. As of today, the end of October 2019, Navigate on Autopilot can only do a few of them, mainly the big roads and a couple of the interchanges. So let's walk through each to show you what I plan to test along the way. To begin with, we start at a commuter lot off of Old Keene Mill in Springfield, Virginia. To navigate out of there, you have to make a couple of complex turns and then onto the busy Old Keene Mill Road. That will get us onto 95 North, which at that point you have to make a very quick set of lane changes. You have to get across 3 lanes in just a few hundred yards, probably about 500 yards, to make the turn or the exit up to northbound 495. Currently, Navigate on Autopilot cannot really do either of these, even though skill number 2 there should actually be doable under what Tesla currently says Navigate on Autopilot is capable of. Skill 3 and 4 are up at Braddock Road. We come north on 495. We have to make the Cloverleaf exit to get onto westbound Braddock Road. This is not particularly hard for Navigate on Autopilot, except for the fact that Braddock Road always has heavy traffic coming down to get onto 495. And again, you have a very short period of time for the car to make the lane change over to the Cloverleaf lane, the exit lane. And in my experience, Navigate on Autopilot has yet to really be able to successfully do that because of the need for pretty aggressive lane change maneuvers in a small space. To return back down 495, you have to come immediately off the Cloverleaf and get across 3 or 4 lanes of traffic very, very quickly to make the left-hand turn at a traffic light to take the on-ramp back to 495 South. This is not currently in the stated skill set of Navigate on Autopilot or Autopilot. Skill 5 is the interchange from 495 South to 395 North. Overall, it's not a particularly difficult section except for the way traffic moves through here. There are lane merges, 2 or 3 lane merges, and the need for often some pretty aggressive merging onto 395 North. I've had Navigate on Autopilot succeed in this and fail in this, so it'll be interesting to see if it gets better over time and more reliable. Usually it fails towards the end of this challenge, where it has to make a left lane change into the main lanes of 395 northbound. There's usually a lot of traffic, and it often struggles to make the lane shift with the other cars around it before the lane ends to exit onto Edsel Road. Skill 6 is one of the last that I expect Tesla to be able to accomplish. It is a complex set of maneuvers to go from 395 North around the west side of the Pentagon on Virginia 27, otherwise known as South Washington Boulevard, and then down and underneath the Memorial Bridge, back up, and then back down to get onto 95 North. All of these are awkward changes. Human beings struggle with all of these exchanges on a regular basis. Traffic does some very odd things, and in particular, the entrance onto GW Parkway North is a really difficult one, in that northbound traffic on GW Parkway is going way above the posted speed limit, and you're entering with bad sight lines. Skill 7, we come up Spout Run, and we come up to a left-hand turn at 29, and we're going to use that to go back down some medium speed roads. Again, multiple lanes, 2 or 3 lanes most of the way. Pretty aggressive driving through here, people moving pretty quickly. And then we'll make a left-hand turn down at North Lynn Street to go across the Key Bridge into Georgetown. Once across the bridge, we have to make another left-hand turn. Again, none of this is really in the skill set of Navigate on Autopilot today. Autopilot will work through much of this, but that's a far cry from autonomy. You also see skill 8 on this slide, a split with a traffic light and an entrance into Canal Road Northwest. Canal Road is one of a number of roads in the DC area that actually switch directions depending on the time of day and the day of the week. Skill 9, Canal Road is only wide enough for 3 lanes. So at Arizona, where they need to add a turn lane in each direction, they start on northbound side with a right turn lane on the right, and if you're coming left, there's also a left turn lane that gets added in the center, which means the through lane going northbound actually does a jink to the right, and Autopilot does not see this today and would drive you right into the oncoming left-hand turn lane. As we come northbound on Canal Road, there are a series of little odd turns here. We see skill 10 is at this point where Canal Road veers right and then splits, and you have to stay to the left to stay on Canal Road. There's another little connector then that goes up to MacArthur. Autopilot completely fails in this region today. The lanes widen, there's poor markings. Just a little bit later, we split off onto Cabin John Parkway to get up to 495. Skill 12 should be really easy. This is in the sweet spot of Navigate on Autopilot today. What I'll be looking for are phantom braking, unusual lane change decisions by Navigate on Autopilot, and reaction to the varying traffic conditions that happen in this section of the road all the time. Skill 13 takes us down BW Parkway back to town. This is a little bit of odd roads. There's terrible lane markings. There's usually potholes, heavy traffic that's going above the posted speed limit, changes in speed limits without much change in traffic flow, but sometimes with traffic flow changes. Navigate on Autopilot works through most of this in its current state. Skill 14 is the transition from 295 southbound, or otherwise known as BW Parkway, over to the short stint of I-695, which takes us through the city. This is, as you see here, a right-hand turn, but there are lane splits, lane merges. People are driving aggressively through here. Coming across doesn't look particularly hard, but this is almost always clogged with traffic, so it's usually bumper to bumper, people very aggressive. Any gaps, any need to change lanes, you have to be very aggressive. Right now there's a lot of construction as well, so there can be lane closures, lane changes. Any number of things can happen through here. This is always a Wild West experience, no matter when you're doing it. So once we come across the 14th Street Bridge, we'll be back in Virginia. And from there, what we're going to do is we're going to exit down onto 110 North, which takes us to the right side of the Pentagon. With that takes us up to Skill 16, which is the transition onto I-66 West. Skill 17 is out the Dulles Toll Road. Everyone that's a local uses the express lanes on the left. At the moment, Navigate on Autopilot drops out here. Autopilot itself gets really flaky. There are all kinds of, once you're through the gate, there's no lane markings. It's a huge funnel down in, people doing weird things. So this will be, again, a great test case to see how Navigate on Autopilot skills improve with for these unusual scenarios over time. Skill 18 is at the exit of the toll road up at Hunter Mill Road, where we're going to turn south into rural roads. But it's just a toll booth on an exit. The right lane goes straight through for those with easy passes, and the left lane is manual if you want to pay an attendant. Currently, none of the autonomy features work through here. From there, we're going to take a left down Hunter Mill Road. It's a windy road. It's pretty high. Again, Navigate on Autopilot doesn't work here. Autopilot is flaky on these rural roads. It's not intended for them yet. It'll work often, but it's certainly not stated as a use case that Tesla approves yet. Along Hunter Mill Road is this traffic circle. It's a pretty tight traffic circle, which requires pretty aggressive steering wheel movements. So this, again, will be a good test. This is not in the skill set today. Skill 20 are just the rural roads from Oakton down through Blake Lane and back over to Route 50. There's lots of turn signals here. Just lots of normal rural driving. So we'll see how it does. Currently, at best, Autopilot does the straights. Navigate on Autopilot is certainly not released for here. This is the quintessential medium speed roads that Alon recently talked about on the quarterly earnings call. Finally, we'll come back down to where we started. And what I'm going to end with here are two skill sets that have to come into fruition if the robotaxi fleet is ever to exist, or your ability to farm out your car whenever you want. So skill 21 is just, can it navigate through this complex set of interchanges to get to the supercharger itself? And you can see the route it should basically take there. There are a couple of different routes it could take in, but this is the most likely. Skill 22 would take us to smart parking, opposite of smart summon. I should be able to get out at the main entrance of the mall, and so I don't have to walk to go to the bathroom or to get some food, and I should be able to send the car to the charging spot automatically, the opposite of smart summon. Obviously this doesn't exist today. Alon has stated many times that it will exist. Skill 23 is the obvious one that has to happen, which is if it can drive to the charger itself, it has to be able to plug in itself or somehow plug in, and that's unclear when that will happen. So if it can do that and it can do the 22 others, that lead up to it, then by and large, this will reflect a car that can drive itself. Whether or not the various jurisdictions will allow that is a different story. And so that's also part of this equation. With this loop being across Virginia, D.C., and Maryland, it's likely that each jurisdiction will pick a different time where they allow autonomy to exist. And so that's a sort of an additional use case to look for here over time. So with that, that's the Don Burke Feature Complete Challenge, which I hope to document over the coming year or two. Anyway, please subscribe to the channel and follow along as we get new versions and drive this route over repeated times. Thanks for checking in.